Gamers rejoice, Deviri is finally out, and with it some new tasty loot to chase in Warframe. Now the devs have finally given some much needed love to some of Warframe's most slept on weapons with these new Incarnon adapters. These can be farmed in Steel Path Circuit, a new roguelike game mode accessed once completing Deviri's story mode. I got some brand spanking new builds for you boys, and it feels good to be back. But first, should we drop a spicy intro? Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it?
Meta.
Right, well, up first we've got the Latron. I love this thing back in the day. It's nice to see it at the top of the food chain. We're using the Prime variant as it's got better status chance overall, which is what we've been mainly using the weapon for, due to an armor stripping perk on the Latron Evolution. More on that later though, here's the mods. You have to excuse the red slot there, as that's usually my Riven slot. I just wanted to show you what I would rock if I didn't have a Riven. We want to get as much status as possible while keeping it pure heat. There is, however, a viral Hunter Munitions boring ass setup that you can use here, should you so wish. Honestly, I don't think this weapon needs it, and for what we're using it for, you're going to want to keep it pure heat. For me, this is the most meta gun in the game right now, due to a couple of things. Its Incarnon form fires AoE rounds of plasma that proc heat, impact, and puncture inherently on the gun without any modding necessary. These AoE rounds ricochet off surfaces and enemies, bouncing into, you guessed it, more enemies. It's the only gun currently that, to my knowledge, can overstrip armor due to one of its evolutions. Speaking of which, I'm using Riddle Target as a must-have in my opinion, Marksman's Focus as some quality of life zoom, and Flensing Spikes for that armor strip. Just when I thought I found my new favourite gun to tickle the void with, Week 3 delivered us an extremely naughty hand cannon. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lex. If you miss grabbing this on the first rotation, I truly feel sorry for you. This beauty of a hand cannon has a huge conal AoE blast in Incarnon form, similar to the Plasmor, delivering the juiciest red crits and insanely high bleed procs thanks to the build. We're pushing all of the crit here and hemorrhage to convert the inherent impact from the Incarnon form into slash. We're also not using Lethal Torrent, which would help with that fire rate. Instead we're going with Crosshairs to push the juice, and instead we're going to use Amalgam Furax. Now we're using Cascadia Flare over Deadhead. If you're doing day-to-day missions, Deadhead's going to be better because you can kill a target and get that buff going. But in endurance runs such as Void Cascade, the Furax enemies take a little bit more time to kill if you lose the buff from Deadhead. However, Cascadia Flare is much easier to proc as it's not on kill, but instead on heat proc. This is what the buff looks like. Keep an eye out on it, and you can always use your Latron to buff those heat stacks really quick. Evolutions, we've got Hoplite Virtue for more Damaggio, Ready Retaliation for some cheeky reload speed for when you have downtime between Incarnon forms, change if you like I guess, and Critical Parallel for more juice. Enough said. So why the devil am I playing Void Cascade? Well, it's straight up the fastest enemy level scaling outside of the circuit. Only taking about an hour to get to level cap, with a focused team of course. It's just a really engaging game mode as well, with the biggest gear check in the game currently I think, because not only do you have to stay alive, but deal masses of damage with both weapons and Tenno. You need focus schools, amp arcanes, and a decent amp, just so that you can excel in this game mode. Now before we move on, I just want to show why crit chasing with this weapon is straight up more damage than adding multi-shot from Lethal Torrent. This is a test without viral stacks or armor strip, but does have max Cascadia Flare stacks. The main reason I wanted to showcase this was that there seems to be a part of the community that call red crits red cringe, and these people seem to think that it's just a colour change of the damage numbers. I had some people come into my Twitch chat suggesting that I just change my UI if I like red numbers. By the way, you should stop by and yeah, I'll also leave a link to the Twitch and some written guides of the builds in the description. So these anti-juices are very incorrect. As you can see, we have got higher consistent numbers with higher crit chance because we're in a higher tier of crit, meaning that critical damage multiplier is being utilized more. This is also why we're using Amalgam Furax to get that fire rate rather than Lethal Torrent on the Lex. Coming up next, we have the melee weapon of choice, mainly used for utility buffing fire rate for the Lex. However, I did find a pretty good meme build to pack a punch. So first up, a silly meme build for heavy attack punches that does millions of damage on viral enemies once armor is stripped, which is very much viable with this Revenant build coming up soon. If you're not bothered about the juicy reds, you can always swap out the Blood Rush for Killing Blow maybe, or just use your basic light attack melee build. That's too generic for us though. So we have a more practical utility setup. It's great for Void Cascade when moving between exolizers further into the map. Dispatch Overdrive helps us get to places quicker on a heavy attack hit, boosting our movement speed, with the option to prime viral still with light attacks, as we've modded for that too here, with Weeping Wounds and the viral combo. Like I previously mentioned, we're only mainly using this for the Amalgam Furax body count mod, which is boosting our fire rate here. This allows us to not use Lethal Torrent like I previously mentioned, but you can still have fun with a weapon and do big damage if you really want to. You just gotta work a little bit for it, by armor stripping and applying viral, and trying to get headshots here. As you can see, 28 million is nothing to scoff at. 12 million with only like an 8 times combo. 6 combo here, and we're still hitting 1.5 million. The setup, it's still pretty goddamn good. As for the evolutions, we're going to go for Killjoy for our attack speed when we're near enemies, which does stack, by the way, which is very nice. For our third evolution, we're going to go with Overhand for the meme build and Moonrise Velocity if you're using the normal utility build for that extra range. Only one option really for that last column here on evolution 4, Flashing Bleed. That chance to bleed on impact is kind of nice still.
Earth was ruined. Town and then a chance to begin again. We shall not fear to take the leap.
Arguably the best tank in the game due to his Mesmer skin, Revenant is my top pick for Void Cascade. There's some great options for subsumed abilities here, but I've narrowed it down to 2 builds that complement our featured loadout. Main setup is Tharos Strike. We're replacing our 4th ability Dance Macabre, and we're not stacking a lot of range, so something like Terrify wasn't really that viable in comparison to Tharos Strike, which actually strips both shields and armor, and because Void Cascade rotates out between Corpus and Grineer, this was a great pick for me. For those of you who are struggling with Cascadia Flare stack uptime, you can try this Thermal Sunder setup, which makes it easier to maintain the stacks, or even just replenish them if you lose them. A nice little touch here is the Thermal Transfer augment for Thermal Sunder. Allies within range, and of course yourself, get 75% bonus elemental damage for 30 seconds. This is a really nice thing to top off the rest of the loadout, should you be using it. We're also not using natural talent in this build, so to make up for that, we're going to use a yellow Archon Shard for casting speed. Arcanes are pretty flexible to be fair, but I still quite like Energize for the energy management, and Arcane Acceleration is my top pick for adding some more fire rate to your primary weapons. You might notice that I'm struggling to kill these Furax enemies in ghost form here. That's because I don't have all my arcanes for my amp set up in this current bit of the footage. Let's go through those now actually, so that we've got a good bearing on what you're going to need for Void Cascade. For focus schools, there's no other choice really than Madurai if you want to actually kill Furax quickly. Void Strike needs to be active so that you get that extra damage, and you will need to be making sure that you're swapping in and out of your Warframe at the right time to get that crit damage from power transfer. Inner and Eternal Gaze help with energy, and Contamination Wave helps you proc Onslaught. Speaking of which, we're using Eternal Onslaught and Eternal Eradicate for our Amp Arcanes for damage and crit, and Emergence Renewed is just something I have because I don't have all my waybounds unlocked. Magus Lockdown is just always nice as well. We're using a 177, which is Proper, Certus and Replac. How can I forget the goodest of boys? And our only source of viral for this build, using viral quills on our Panzer Vulp. This pet, not only does it revive itself when it goes down, but spreads viral spores, similar to how Saren's spores work. It's essential for this build if you want to do that big Damaggio. You can grab one from Deimos. So last on the list is the Tellus Boltor Incarnon. I wanted to show you the difference between your generic viral hunter munitions versus a pure damage crit hunter munition build. I'll show you both tests with the same conditions, Thorough Strike removing armor and the Panzer stacking maximum viral stacks. Arcane of choice will be Primary Merciless, and we'll try and get an average damage per shot at max stacks. So now that we've got our Incarnon charged, we're going to do Thorough Strike here to remove some armor and try and get the Merciless stacks up as we let the spores do their work, getting the viral stacks to 10. Almost at max stacks. And there we go. Okay, time to do the tests. 298, 290, 379, 290, 290, and 469. So that was the viral setup. Now time to show you what I've been working with instead. Let me know in the comments section if this helps. I was quite surprised at the difference, to be fair. Same test again, of course, with the Panzer and armor strip. Let's go build our Incarnon now. There we go. Nice and easy that was. Now we need to get those Merciless stacks again. But already, without full stacks, we have 3 million damage. Now some average oranges at 5, red crit at 4, 2.9 million orange crit, 4.2, 3 mil, another 3 mil, 4 mil, another 4 mil, another 3 mil, 7.4 million, another 10 stacks at 7.1. Just a slight difference there then, yeah? As for the evolutions, we've got Crimson Overture for damage and ammo efficiency boosts. We've got Swift Deliverance for projectile speed, just a preference, but you might also want to try the reload perk, see what works for you. And the final perk would be Commodore's Fortune to add some more juice to the mix. That's about it for this video. Here's the fashion guide for those who might want it. If you stick around till the end, let me know in the comment section what you want to see more of. And yeah, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and check out the links in the description for Twitch, Discord and written guides. A huge thank you to my patrons Rollyflex, Harkon, Diego Vargas, Dark Nexus, Chris Drovak and Goni. Big special thanks to Gift, Defiant, Oddity, Bright and Matt Doug for the ribbon as well. You guys are the best. Thanks a lot. Ciao for now.